And there you go. So now you have a modified F1, So that's other ways to do it. So they can join, they can cut each other, and you can use voids to cut them from now. Now the other things, make sure I'm on, oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the next thing to look at is what kind of families do you have in your project. So here, like I said before, you have your basic rectangle. You can make your own, or you can use some that are already in our list. So we have preloaded a lot of types. So we actually have pile cap types that came with the program, and the ones that basically I made and modified to have a concrete pile. So we have a PC1 has one on it, one pile, and then so on. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up. And then we actually have two type 3s. We have a 3 and a 3A. So on one job we would use this type 3, and then the 3A is a modified, so it has a different shape. So, and I had spent a lot of time on that one in the beginning. It was probably my first family that I worked on, and I would get better at it over time. So what are inside of these families basically are parameters, and they tell you in the type, what the lengths, widths, how you cut off that pile cap, clearances and things like that. And you change these, and this is probably another situation where once they put this in, I don't know where it's supposed to be. Maybe it's at like a 0, 0 location. But like I said, if you right click zoom to fit, it's usually right over here. Don't know why, but you can find it. So there's your family. And then if you go down over the parameters, they should highlight. Something doesn't look right with this one. And they'll tell you, what they change and so on. Probably should have used a different one to show you, but basically they're all that way. To get them that way, there's, like I said, you have to go through some family training that I'll be going through and show you how to do that. Notice that the tags themselves have updated, and these spot elevations, you'll need to move them and so on. So when you change sizes, there is some cleanup that you might have to do. All right. So we have those in there. And the other things we have, for instance, here, pile caps, we have regular like piers. So there's one, you can make any diameter you want out of it. There's a dimension on there. And so on. So you can make, and there's some that are already loaded. You could put, other column, you could use a channel or whatever you wanted as your pier, but you could use steel pipes and, concrete columns and things like that. But there's a pier family here that's concrete round. You could change the shape to be whatever you really wanted to by editing that family. Go down to, we actually have just, if you have a slab foundation, you could use these guys where you just put the actual precast pile on there, and you can just space those piles how you need them and so on. So let's go to the next type of foundation category. So if we go to home, we'll go to foundation slab. And we had to do this on the job. It's been a while. I think it was Pixar as one of them we did. We did it on, I think, on 2. So if you had a custom, foundation, you could do it with the foundation slab as well. Change the thicknesses, and then you could use, your own piles. And space them the way you need to. You could array them and so on and put them under there, and they'll work just fine that way as well. What I did on that job specifically, I actually made that a big family and put them in there and put parameters on it so nobody would accidentally delete my stuff. It was kind of stored in its own little file. So you could do it this way or you could do it that way. It really doesn't matter. So foundations, go over this category a little bit better. If you look at foundation slabs, it's different from a floor. It doesn't act the same. You can't really, it has different sloping properties and stuff that floors do. But you could use this for, beams. You could use this for actual foundations that are tricky. They may have a bunch of different angles and, like wall foundations and things like that, or you could use them for just regular foundation mats. So this category, what's nice about it is in the foundation category. So if you wanted to schedule it later, it will schedule as a foundation. So if you had some geometry that, followed a wall and it looks something like this, maybe you don't want to take the time to build your own custom families because you have some, weird geometry going on. So when you save it, you'd have it. So that's just one way to do it. And then what's nice about this, walls will attach to this family. So if you have a wall that's above it, and it does something, whatever. I'm not going to try to get perfect here. And then you want to attach to it. I hate that. By default, it goes below it. Whoops. Let's go to level 2 and 0 of level 1. Whoops, 0 level 2, 0 level 1. All right. So if we move this foundation down, say 3 feet, and we want the walls to actually follow it, it won't follow any other foundation category, but it will follow foundation slabs. I wish it would follow other foundation categories, but you can tell it to attach the base of that wall to that foundation, and it will follow it. So when we get into step foundations, sometimes what I like to do is make a bunch of these, whatever shape they are, and step them, and then you can tell that wall to step with it as well. So you can see I was not quite on it here, so part of it stayed where it was, stayed up at the 0 level. So that comes in handy when you want that condition where you want part of the wall to stay at grade and then the rest of it to drop 3 feet and then go back up to grade and so on. You can step this as you need to. All right, sorry for the sloppiness. I did come up with this morning, thinking I was not going to do one today and wound up pulling it together. So, all right, so the next thing I want to look at is step footings in general. There are several ways to do this. There's preferred methods, and then we hope they're going to give us a better step footing family or wall, foundation categories that can step and so on in the future. But until then, we have several ways to do this. So here, if you look, I've stolen one from your job. We have this situation right here. So we have detail lines where we drew out how we wanted this footing to step. So we can use those detail lines as a guideline to actually step our footing. So the first method we want to use is we're going to use an in-place family. So if I go to Home, Model in Place, it's going to ask me a category. So in-place families are basically families that are specific for this job. You don't really use them on other jobs. The geometry is only fit for what you're working on. So a lot of times when you have something that's not going to be used on other jobs, a lot of times they will be in-place families. So if it's something that's square, rectangular, and you're going to repeat it all the time, then that's probably going to be a family. So for in-place families, we want to use a structural foundation category, and that will allow us to schedule it later. And we can call it something for scheduling purposes now or later, so you can actually go back and rename them. They will be in your project browser at the bottom under structural foundations. So you could call this one, step footing 1 or something. And then you're ready to actually make your extrusion. So you need to pick an extrusion, and it's going to ask you a work plane. So before I started, I actually created a reference line, but I put it in this one right here that I already have made. So let me cancel this. I forgot to delete that one firsthand. All right, so let's make a reference plane. Now you could use a grid line. You could use pick by face and pick the face of one of these, or you can take the time really quickly and just give yourself a reference plane. And you could call this, center line step footing. because it can be moved off of this. This is basically a starting point. That's weird. All right, so when you hover over a reference plane, it'll tell you, or it should tell you, if you pick it, it'll tell you what reference plane that is. So now we want to do that process again. So go to component, model in place, structural foundation. That's what I get in a hurry. You could change the category later too. It's not stuck in there. The only thing is if you do some overrides for like line work, it resets all that stuff. So you have to really do it again. All right, so we want to go ahead and do an extrusion. This time it's going to ask, and I will pick that centerline step footing reference plane. I could say, okay, pick a plane, and then click OK, and then pick that wall, right? And it's going to be the face of that wall. But then I would have to think about how I want to do my offsets later. So maybe I should have a center line to start with. So here I want a center line. So I'll do it again, and we'll pick the center line, and then you're in a sketch mode. Now there is a value that changes this, so you can see this. It's under manage, additional settings, and where is it, Mike? Okay, it's in there. Yeah, I think you got to do it before you get in there. So I can see it. All I really need to do is see one line right now because I can use the tab command to select the rest of them. This is not a problem on my monitor. It's only a problem on some of the old monitors. I'm not even sure if it's a problem on Mike's new monitors now because it's the ones I had. So if it's a problem on your monitor where it does, because what it does is a half tone, and then when you get in here, it's a double half tone. So you almost can't see it. But you can change your halftone properties to be darker, so when you get in there, you can see it. So yeah, I will. When I get out, I'll go to it and show you where it is. Okay, so what I want to do is use the pick line tool. It's the arrow with the green line going through it. And like I said, if you have a enclosed space, if you do draw your detail lines right, you'll get it right the first time. So you hover over one, you'll see a dash, and you hit tab, and it'll select all of them. So I tabbed, and it got all of them. So if this is not working for you, it's because of something like this. One line didn't like what was going on, so worked out fine that it was only one. So if I finish that line and hit save. Now, if I would have hit save and that line wasn't done, it will give me a message saying, okay, you need to fix this problem. And it will be visible on your monitors, and you'll see the orange. And it'll tell you to go fix that. And don't hit quit, just hit continue. Continue what you were doing, and then draw a line to connect those things. All right, so we finished that. Now, we could say, okay, I'm good with this family, but what we've done was given it one direction. We haven't given it the second direction. So here we have basically a default 1 foot thick from the center line of that wall foundation. So what you do is, since you know you're on center line, you can go forward and backwards with that. So I wanted to go 3 foot. I want a 6 foot foundation, and then I want to go negative 3 foot in the other direction. So now I have a 6 foot, and I know I'm on the center line, so I went 3 and 3, and there you go. So that's how you would do that. Now you have to finish your in-place family. We have finished the sketching and so on of the actual model, but we have to finish the in-place family. But before we do that, we don't have a material set for that. So where's my 3D view? If you hold Control and then hit Tab, you can cycle through your windows in Revit and AutoCAD. So I want to cycle so I can see this window and then give it a look at it and see how dark it is. So I want to give it a material. So if you pick that in any view, it says there's a material right here. You want to give it the same material as your rest of your foundations, which is this little button right here. It will take you to your materials. And it's concrete cast in place. Click OK. Now we can finish it, and we're good to go.